we are back with some news, some late news actually coming from the Crew. Cucho Hernandez is going to be suspended for the Crew's upcoming game on Saturday against the Red Bulls, I believe. The official reason listed for his suspension is offensive language. At first, when this came out, the Crew, nor the MLS, nor did Cucho Hernandez himself really reference what offensive language was said. Just that, hey, he's being suspended for offensive language, with both the Crew and Cucho Hernandez releasing statements, with the Crew basically saying, we accept the punishment and what he said was unacceptable, yada yada. And Cucho issuing kind of like, hey, I'm sorry I said this. This wasn't okay for me to say, blah, blah, blah. So it was really confusing because apparently something bad was said enough that the league, the MLS, decided to suspend Cucho Hernandez for a game, and we're kind of left in the dark by what it was. But according to an article from Outsports, which is an SB Nation blog, the article is written by, I believe it's pronounced Sid Ziegler. If I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. I just took my best guess at it. The article claims that Cucho Hernandez was suspended for using a homophobic slur that is common in Colombia, which is where he's from. So the article, and it's also been mentioned that Cucho Hernandez wasn't put through league-mandated training on prohibited language that might have been, helpful. That might have told him, hey, don't say that. But this is a bad look on all accounts. It's a bad look on the Crew front office for not putting him through apparently something that's league-mandated. Bad look for the MLS for not following up and making sure that league-mandated protocol was followed. And obviously this is bad look on Cucho for saying this. If that's true, I guess. I mean, I am going off of one article, but there hasn't been anything releasing to the contrary. And I think, generally like rude things are said in almost every soccer game to the officials, to each other, the coaches, blah, blah, blah. But the league has stepped in in this case and has levied suspension. So it does seem like evidence is pointing to that Cucho Hernandez probably did say a homophobic slur during their match against Portland earlier in the month, which, if that is true, I'm not saying it's 100% true. It's just one article that says it, but that seems to be where that direction is headed. One game does seem kind of like a slap on the wrist. They have given harsher punishments for the same kind of thing before. Maybe they're thinking that maybe since Cucho didn't go through the league mandated protocol, that maybe, it's kind of like ignorance of the law kind of thing, where like, hey, he didn't know that he wasn't allowed to say it, but he still did, so it's a lesser suspension. But that does make it fishy that, every official party, from the Crew to the MLS to the Cucho Hernandez and his people, none of them mentioning the issue, other than just saying that it was under, quote, offensive language, which does leave it to ambiguousness and kind of like this weird place where we don't know what was said. That offensive language because that could mean almost anything. If you turn to the referee and say, hey, you're a duty head, you could argue that falls under offensive language if you really want to. So them being kind of like avoidant and not really addressing what was said or what the content was. You don't have to like, put word for word every slur that was said in the thing, but like not even a general idea was hinted at. It was just like, yeah, he said something bad. Okay, well, 1 game suspension, and like we're gonna wonder what was said, because you can't just hand a 1 game suspension to one of the team's best players and Cucho Hernandez and us to wonder what's going on. But that's besides the point. It seems that Cucho Hernandez will not be available for, some garbage apparently. And again, if this is true, 1 game seems a bit light. It seems like, okay, don't do that again. And, I mean, you could argue that it is a big punishment because all of these games for the Crew are going to be huge, and him missing just one is going to impact, the team's future. But it again, especially with prior history where the MLS has given out harsher punishments for the same thing, you wonder, what makes this one so different. And I do think, again, I think it is a little, it's such mismanagement by the Crew's front office that Cucho Hernandez is not put through just like a league mandated thing. Like, how long does this take? This training course on prohibited language cannot be too intensive if every single MLS player has to go through it. This can't be like a week-long thing. It has to only take like hours. It's a joke that he didn't get that. It's a joke both for the crew for not putting him there. It's a joke that the MLS apparently never followed up and they never checked that he did it. And now it's led to this. And maybe again, if Cucho does this, this still happens. But the fact that he didn't do it and this still happened and that didn't happen is a complete indictment on the MLS and the crew and them not following through on their own systems. And again, the 1-game suspension does seem a little insulting, especially when none of the statements, again, this is ridiculous. None of the statements actually addressed like what the issue was. Cucho's apology was to like the fans and his coaches and teammates that he wasn't going to be there. There was no like, oh, and I apologize to members of the LGBTQ plus community for saying harmful things. There was none of that. It was just like, sorry, I said a thing, and I'm sorry that I can't be on the field. Okay, bye. That's essentially what it was. It's ridiculous. I know I'm like smiling, nervous, laughing, but like it's just because it's so ridiculous that again this is even an issue. That the player did not go through a league mandated thing. This is something that cannot happen if you want to be a serious league. This is not a thing that you can allow to happen. You cannot allow players to just play for a good chunk of your season without like filling out essentially paperwork, without doing like initial paperwork to be in the league. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I think I'm done ranting. I can only say these same things so many times. I think it is good to reiterate them because it's just so absurd that I do think it does warrant mentioning a time or two in a video, but I can only say so much. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far throughout the video, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoy the content. You want to see more like it. Let me know what you think about this situation down in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you at the next one.